Good evening, it's Patriot Smoothie. It's the end of day 20 of the trial of Tamara Lich and Chris Barber. I'm not at the courthouse right now, but it has been an interesting day. Again, check out the lunch update video if you haven't so far. There's a lot of important information on there that you need to see concerning the morning. So when we got back from the lunch break, the first thing that happened is the Crown did a bit of scheduling, housekeeping, and then they raised something to the judge that was kind of an interesting exchange. The Crown more or less told the judge to recall her comments that she made previously about staying out of the fray, and basically more or less said that it would be a good idea to do that. The judge did not appear pleased by this line of comment and said that she wasn't going to make a comment on it and to, quote, call their witness. So there's some interesting developments happening there in the state of the trial as it is in the meta sense. We also had some other interesting developments. We had Officer Bach testify about multiple different things. The most interesting thing she testified about came towards the end of her testimony today when she admitted, well, earlier actually, where she said that her phone was wiped, her text messages on her police work phone. And in cross-examination with Magus, she explained that the phone was wiped because she had been pushed by IT section and OPS to have done this for some time. She put it off because of how busy the convoy was, but sometime after the convoy, she's not exactly sure when, she then decided to wipe her phone, and in the process of wiping her work phone and upgrading her IT system on the phone, she lost her text messages, her work text messages, and I believe all the content on her phone. But on her personal phone, she had the Signal application. She testified in court and she was asked many questions. Again, follow my coverage on X for all the details. She testified in cross-examination that she never had any no direct text messages on her work phone with police officers. It was all exclusively done through Signal. So that's an interesting bit of testimony there, swearing to not have contacted any police by text, only on Signal. The text messages that she had with Chris Barber, as she is the main police liaison team officer for the Ottawa Police who had contact with him, was gathered, I believe, through Chris Barber's phone when they analyzed that for evidence, or however they did that. Her side of the text were all lost when she upgraded it after the convoy. As well, she lost text, as she testified she had some text with other people, even other convoy people. And as Magus said in cross-examination, these are pieces of evidence that could be used in their trials. It could be used for her client even. We don't know what those messages were. So she was asked, are you aware that police have a obligation to provide disclosure when they arrest someone? They have to provide this information. She said yes. And then Magus asked her basically, what steps did you take to preserve your phone and the evidence that's on it for my client, for this situation? She said, I got a handout from IT and there were steps on there. I followed those steps to back up my phone, save the material, but I failed. And when I updated my phone, unfortunately, I lost all those text messages with Barber, with everyone else. Now, again, there is a copy of the Barber messages on Barber's side, but we just don't know what other text messages are on her police work phone. Remember that Officer Bach is the main point of contact for Chris Barber. I'm sorry, the main point of contact in general for the police liaison team was yesterday's witness, Officer Sear. And interestingly enough, that we're talking about Officer Sear, she also lost her work text messages. I believe hers was the end of January to February 9th. She said she had a printout of them, so more than Officer Bach has, which is nothing, but she admitted under oath yesterday that she lost some of them. So we have missing phone material from 2 police officers now involved in the liaison teams. There was also questions from Magus about discrepancies in the PLT logs versus the Signal chats, and basically there was a miscommunication. Bach said that the PLT logs are complete, that they're identical to the raw Signal chats that she has on her phone. She later clarified it was a misunderstanding because what the defense and the Crown have been calling the PLT logs are a compilation of different things that don't match what she calls the PLT logs, and also the direct Signal chats on her phone themselves. And then she said that in preparation for this trial, when she was going over all that information, she saw the discrepancies there. Magus asked her why she never went forward with those discrepancies. She said, I don't know. Magus also asked why she never disclosed that she had the Signal chat on her personal phone. And Officer Bach testified that she thought that the person in charge of the PLT chat in the Signal group, in charge of disclosure, would have done that on her behalf. So a lot of interesting things coming out here, and it seems a lot of breakdown in communication, and how these chats, how this information, this evidence arguably could go missing is beyond me. How this could be allowed. And Magus was asking her, do you have emails, anything, memos from police telling you that you need to do this update? And so it could give us the timeline of when it happened, because she, again, doesn't know when she actually updated it, just that it was sometime pretty soon after convoy, Officer Back that is. She also testified about some other things. She testified about her observations. There was a objection, as you may recall, from Magus before the lunch break to the 9 pages of text basically saying that they're hearsay. There's 9 pages of screenshots. Magus was saying that they're hearsay. The Crown came back and said, tying up a loose end, we're not presenting those 9 pages of screenshots for the truth of their contents, just as the fact for the context of what was said. And those 9 pages of screenshots are screenshots that Officer Bach took of Ottawa Police Service's social media pages, communications made by Ottawa Police Service's social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, wherever, to get information out during the Freedom Convoy. So that was one interesting section of debate. But again, the big takeaway is that we have this missing information from Officer Bach's work phone. We have missing information from Officer Sear's work phone. And there was some questioning, I believe, that this was originally elicited today by the judge in a line of questioning earlier, somewhere when she was asking about verbatim text. I believe the judge may have had a hand in getting this information into the record. And I'm not 100% sure of that, but the judge does have a role during examination in chief and during cross-examination to ask questions about things to clarify for her sake. She's taking notes just as everybody else is. She's ultimately going to be the one who makes the decision about whether or not Chris and Tamara are guilty. So it's important that she understands everything being presented in the trial, and that brings about her questioning. There's also arguments of law. There's a lot of arguments of law. Speaking of that, shortly before the lunch break, we went into a voir dire, basically over, I believe it was a TikTok video that was presented by the Crown. More or less what it was I think it was the TikTok video, but in any case, there was a TikTok video that was in the Signal chats, and the defense was not ready to admit that those were an authentic TikTok video, because they said when they click the link in the Signal chat, it goes to a random TikTok video. So the Crown basically came back and tried to tie that up by asking more open-ended questions to Officer Sear. Was dismissed during this period because there was an objection. But when she came back, the Crown asked her open questions like, do you remember a TikTok video on this date, whatever? What do you recall about it? Oh, it was a video of Chris Barber. Do you remember what he said? He was talking about convoy. Do you remember specifically? No, check your notes. So as she often does, she refreshed herself with her notes, and she's like, well, he was talking about an intersection that he was in the video we watched. Again, this was Exhibit 9 from way back, but we were getting Officer Bach's input on it to tie into whatever point the Crown's trying to make here. So it was a video of Chris where he's looking at an empty intersection, said it looked lonely, and joked, can we fix it? And that's basically the gist of what Officer Bach testified. And like I said, Magus's objection was she wasn't ready to admit that that was authentic in whatever way she was arguing it about, because when she clicked the link in the Signal chat to that video that they say that's the source of it, it goes to a random thing, not to an actual TikTok video. So that was the point there. So a lot of interesting things happening in court today. I know there's a few things that I missed, but I am very tired. I just wanted to add that the voir dire that was called today had nothing to do with the TikTok video. It concerned a defense objection, if you could call it, to the Crown raising an issue that Bach and Barber communicated, Barber expressing his opinion on Justin Trudeau, and the judge basically agreeing with the defense that it's not relevant to the proceedings, saying that she doesn't really care his political opinion on one leader or the other. The Crown arguing that it does matter to the proceeding because it goes to count 5 of the information, block highway, intimidate any member or agent of government up to and including the Prime Minister. That voir dire has not been addressed. The arguments, I think we'll hear from that tomorrow morning during the continuation of cross. Again, a reminder, I will not be in court tomorrow morning as I have an urgent matter to attend to, but I will be there as soon as possible to cover this trial. Another thing I didn't mention was Bach testified about Barber communicating to her on February 13th during the counter protest that happened, the so-called Battle of Billings Bridge, where Barber was saying that he was getting calls from truckers concerned that the situation there was out of control, and that she noted Barber as, she described him in her notes as panicked. I don't know how that goes, but that's an interesting thing that I wanted to mention. A couple other interesting points I missed, but again, thank you so much for watching. I'm John.